Hi, this is Dan. Thanks for joining me today. So the endpoint here, the thing that I'm going for, is I'm going to go through how I write and develop an entire Dimgaard module, so that you can see what goes into it, maybe come away with it with some ideas of how you would develop your own. So in particular, I'm going to go through. This will probably be several videos. I don't see it being a single video, by the way. And this will be the first part. So first, I have to have a kernel of an idea, and several things have to come together here. So with FS11, which is tentatively titled "Disease or Blessing," here is the idea. So we've got the heroes of this campaign are in Odile, and they are moving to 11th level, which is kind of means they need to transition to a higher tier of adventuring. Odile is catered to tier 2, so they're moving into tier 3, and we're going to. I could scale up Odile, but then I would have to. The next campaigns that when they get into Odile, which is tier 2, I would have to make adjustments for the things that are going to happen in tier 3 that would have effects on tier 2 play residually. You know, there'd be stronger NPCs in place, more difficult organizations to deal with, and so forth. So, so historically, this is the fourth campaign I've ran in Dimgaard under 5th edition, at least 4th. And historically, once we hit tier 4, we leave Odile and go somewhere else. Originally, I had thought that Musclagita would be, the setting for all the tier 4 plays, but really the heroes have been so divergent by the time we get to 11th level that hasn't been the case. So that's the first thing to consider, is the PCs are going to 11th level. And so I need a reason for them to move, right? So in FS11, we kind of resolve things in Odile, kind of set things in a situation that's going to be static for a long time. It's just not going to, and the players, as well as their characters, can be confident in saying, yeah, okay, Odile's dealt with, we can move on. If something comes up, the next wave of heroes can emerge to take care of it there. So I need an impetus for them to move. I need something that is going to propel the action to a new story. Now, this next mechanic is not something that I just came up with today. It's something that I've been that's been rolling around in the back of my mind for several months, and it came out of a discussion. And the discussion was that lesser restoration will cure a disease. Right? So there are many times when we have a situation that can be viewed as a disease or not, right? Even things that are rather dramatic, like there are people who have lost their hearing, and the deaf community, many of them don't believe that should be considered an affliction. They think that it's just a different way to live your life, and there's a lot of resentment against the cochlear ear implant in that community. So what we got to looking at was lesser restoration, and it led us to a very wrinkled, I guess is the right word, or textured discussion of pregnancy. Right? So in one way, right, pregnancy is definitely not a disease, right? It's not an affliction, right? It's many couples work very, very hard to establish pregnancy, and they want that child. However, if it is an unwanted pregnancy, right, you have a parasitic being that is growing inside you, and that is a category of many diseases, right? Many diseases are parasitic infestations. So the question then became, well, will lesser restoration cure pregnancy? And whether it would just objectively cure it, right? So it's like, well, will it cure this for any pregnant woman? Or is it constrained to the belief of the caster has to view pregnancy as an affliction, as a disease? So when I look at the actual text of lesser restoration, you touch a creature and can end either one disease or one condition afflicting it. One condition afflicting it. There's no constraint as to whether it must be a willing creature. Right? So if it's the caster, if you have someone who is hostile to overpopulation, and it says, no, I think that universally pregnancy is a parasitic infestation and is a disease, then they could just go around and just spontaneously abort whoever they touched, right? There's no saving throw involved. It's just a boom. You're no longer pregnant, woman, right? So anyway, so we just came to that's clearly not going to work. Although it could be a very interesting adventure. Yeah. So but that's not where I'm headed with this. The thing I'm heading with this is that the person touched has to consider it. If you don't consider it and a disease or affliction, then it doesn't cure it. So but if you do, if you, for example, have been raped and are pregnant as a consequence, and you resent the pregnancy and you view the pregnancy as a disease and an affliction, then lesser restoration could be a D&D version of abortion. So that is the mechanic at work here. Now then, to flavor that, to say, okay, well, what's going on? We have another thing that has evolved, and this has been pretty prominent in the Dimgaard campaign for many months now. That is the idea of hag spawn. So hag spawn are the product of sexual reproduction between a hag and a male humanoid. If the progeny is female, then she grows up as a hag. So that is one way that at least in Dimgaard, that hags can reproduce in addition to the devouring of an infant to reproduce. So that's one thing. So the next thing is the next point we get to is if you have these hag spawn, but if they're male, they become hag spawn. And they are usually cast out to fend for themselves even as infants. So almost all, well over 90% die without ever surviving a few weeks. But sometimes a miracle happens. Passerbys will discover the baby, or it could, well, that's usually what happens. Passersby discover the baby. Every now and then, a minion of hags will go ahead and deliberately save the hag spawn in like a misguided attempt to build hag culture, or maybe in the hopes that the hag spawn can provide leverage or something. So, but anyway, because hag spawn are like elves and hags and have just an indefinite lifetime, they're over the millennia. There have been hundreds of these hag spawns that have propagated, even though over 90% of them have died. But they do not reproduce. They're like mules, right? They are infertile, except for this one hag spawn, and that is the gist of the story. So the heroes are in Odile, and they are approached by this priest, and this priest is aware of this one hag spawn enclave that is where there is a fertile hag spawn. He's able to impregnate human women and produce more hag spawn sexually without the intervention of any hags. And he has done that, and he's fairly young himself. He not only is he fertile, but most of his progeny are fertile as well. However, he never has female children. He only has male children. If the pregnancy results in a female fetus, it spontaneously is aborted. Only the males are carried to term. And when it is carried to term, it is almost always fatal for the birthing mother. You can think of aliens bursting through these. It's not a vaginal delivery. The hag spawn is too robust and too aggressive. It just burst out of the stomach of the girl. But this one girl survives. She's left for dead because all the mothers die, but she manages to recover. She makes a 20 on her death save after she's left for dead, and she wakes up with 1 hit point instead of succumbing to the elements. Almost, even those who normally stabilize, within 4 hours they're dead from environmental conditions. It's way up north. But this one survives. She manages to crawl out, find help, get to a priest, explain to him what's going on. And he's like, I can rescue these women. I can use lesser restoration to end their pregnancies, but I can't get into them. I've got to find heroes to get me into this enclave's harem so that I can end the pregnancies of these women. So he finds out about the heroes in Odile. He makes the pilgrimage to Odile. He enlists their support. And that sets up FS11, which is going to be a travel module. The PCs are traveling from Odile in southern Dimgaard to a rather northern town that I will get to later. I actually haven't developed the name of it yet. I'm gonna get into that when I get into the naming and such. So there we go. So that sets up the beginning. In the next video, I'm going to go over the mechanics of how I start developing the actual module itself. I probably won't present an image of myself with that. It will be, you will see the video, it'll be a screen capture of my laptop with a voiceover. So thanks for taking a look, and hopefully this will be helpful and informative for all of the followers of Dimgaard out there.